Bobby Moore didn't ask to be remembered. He just led. Quietly. Clearly. Without fault. He didn't shout, he didn't point. He simply stood where pressure broke others and held firm. In 1966, he lifted England's only World Cup. Not with drama, not with flair, but with the still hands of a man who knew the weight of history and carried it like it was his job. That moment lives forever. The photo, the shirt, the trophy, a nation in full voice. But when the noise faded, when cancer came for him, England fell silent. No knighthood, no national parade, just a quiet death for the man who gave England its loudest day. They built him a statue at Wembley, but it came 14 years too late. So this isn't a story, it's a restoration. The honor that should have come while he was still breathing. Subscribe for the leaders who carried the weight and were laid down without one final roar. Before he held the World Cup, he carried buckets of coal. Bobby Moore was born on April 12, 1941, in Barking, East London, a place of fog, chimneys, and second chances. His father, Bob, worked the print rooms. His mother, Doris, raised him with quiet pride. Their house was small. Their rules were clear. Show up, keep still, do it properly. He played football on pavements, chipped frozen air with his laces, and chased the game like it owed him nothing. At Tom Hood School, he wasn't the fastest, but always in the right place. At 13, he joined West Ham boys. By 15, he was spotted. Malcolm Allison saw something rare. Calm feet, no panic, just presence. He pulled Moore up early. And at 17, he walked into West Ham's first team with the shoulders of a grown man and the mind of someone who didn't blink. The others called for the ball. Moore just moved toward it. He didn't dive, he didn't shout, he just stood in the storm and stayed still. Bobby Moore played like he saw the match 2 seconds before it happened. By 1958, he was a first-team regular. Not fast, not flashy, just flawless. They put him at center-half and found out he was a metronome in boots. No wasted step, no panic, just a quiet authority that made teammates feel 10 feet taller. He wore the armband without asking. Became West Ham's compass. He made the men around him better. Hurst, Peters, Barn. They moved in sync with his decisions. Won the 1964 FA Cup, the 1965 Cup Winners' Cup. In 1960, he married Tina, his teenage love. A quiet presence beside him from Barking streets to Wembley's summit. In the 1964 final, Moore didn't just play, he commanded. Reading the game like it had already been written. His stats were neat. 544 league games for West Ham. 24 goals. But numbers don't tell you how the whole stadium seemed to slow down whenever he stepped across a striker. For England, he became the same presence. 108 caps, 90 as captain, and never once did the pressure get behind his eyes. Just the ball, just the job. And a man who didn't flinch. He didn't lead with fire, he led with calm. In 1966, England was searching for belief, for a heartbeat, for someone who didn't flinch when it mattered most. They found him wearing number 6. At 25, Bobby Moore captained a squad of giants: Charlton, Hurst, Banks, Peters, and in the semi-final, he shadowed Eusebio like a second heartbeat. Portugal's lion never found breath. England won 2-1. But it was Moore's shadow that kept Portugal's brightest star dim. He was the one who held them steady. He didn't scream in the tunnel. He didn't chase the spotlight. He just read the pitch like it was a story he already knew the ending to. In the final at Wembley, England beat West Germany 4-2 after extra time. The moment was chaos. But Moore picked up the Jules Rimet like it had been waiting for him. He wiped his hands before shaking the Queen's. Not to impress, but because that's what respect looked like. They gave him an OBE in '67. But Sir never came. Pele called him the best defender I ever played against. Beckenbauer said he played like a mirror reflecting everything before it arrived. And when the photographers swarmed, he just stood there, trophy in hand, head still, like he knew it didn't belong to him alone. The cheers didn't last. They never do. After 1966, Bobby Moore kept leading, but the spotlight didn't. He stayed with West Ham until 1974, 16 years of quiet loyalty. Then moved to Fulham, where he played 124 more games, reaching the 1975 FA Cup final in a white kit that didn't quite feel like home. No farewell parade, no national send-off, just a transfer notice for the man who carried the crown. In 1976, he joined San Antonio Thunder. In 1978, the Seattle Sounders. Across the Atlantic, the boots still fit, but the world had stopped looking. He returned to England, took charge of Oxford City, then Southend United. No cameras followed him in. No headlines marked the day. The captain of 1966 was now managing in silence. He never complained, never chased the mic. He just showed up and did the job. Like always. He beat cancer once. Testicular, 1964. Nobody knew. He just kept playing. But in 1991, it came back worse this time. Bowel cancer. Still, he showed up. Not on the pitch, but behind the mic. Covering matches, calling games with that same quiet clarity. No headlines, no public rally. The FA didn't send flowers. The country barely knew. Most fans had no idea he was fading. He kept it quiet like everything else. He sat in the booth for Capital Gold, talking through England v San Marino, just 9 days before he died. Still calm, still precise. The mic changed, the man didn't. No hospital press conference, no final interview, just a man slipping from view while the world stayed busy. On February 24th, 1993, he was gone, 51. There was no knighthood, no national moment, no day of mourning. Only silence for the man who once held every heartbeat in the country inside his palms. They waited until he was gone to say what they should have said all along. Sir Alf Ramsey. He was the spirit of 1966. But none of them could give him what England didn't: a knighthood, a national farewell, a final thanks. It was his wife, Stephanie, who carried his name forward. She founded the Bobby Moore Fund in 1993, raising millions for bowel cancer research. While the FA stayed quiet, she turned grief into action. He never asked to be remembered. But after he was gone, the world remembered him better than it treated him. Awards came posthumously. Articles, archives, tributes on anniversaries. But by then, he was a photo. A voice in black and white, a name chanted in nostalgia. The crown he carried was always real. The honor he deserved never arrived. They built him a statue, but he never saw it. Wembley, 2007, 14 years after he died. The boots cast in bronze, the arms folded, the eyes locked forward like he was still reading the game. Old teammates came. His wife stood quietly in the rain. Charlton spoke, his voice cracked. For once, silence was broken. And England remembered for a day. It was beautiful. It was deserved. It was late. The day after he died, West Ham renamed the South Stand the Bobby Moore Stand. The fans didn't wait. The Bobby Moore Stand. The fans did what the system wouldn't. They didn't need a ceremony. They already knew. The statue stands outside Wembley now, but not as a celebration, as a correction. A monument to a man who gave his country everything and had to wait to be seen. He didn't run with his chest out. He didn't raise his fists. He just stood exactly where he needed to be and let the game move around him. He was the voice in the back four who never needed to speak. The calm in the moment when nations froze. Bobby Moore lifted the one trophy England still worships, and never once asked for credit. Never chased it, never expected it. No scandals, no headlines, no farewell tour. Just a man who did the job better than anyone else and walked away without a sound. They remembered him in statues, in stands, in old black and white clips faded from broadcast but burned into memory. Because he wasn't just a captain, he was the example, the measure, the man every fan wanted their team to have, and every country wanted to call their own. Subscribe for the giants who lifted us and had no one left to lift them.